Hello, everyone, and welcome to the U.S. Center. Very excited for this event, laying the foundations to accelerate private sector financing for climate, how MCC's country-led model catalyzes additional investment. And it is our honor here at the U.S. Center to invite to the stage Alice Albright, the Chief Executive Officer of the Millennium Challenge Corporation.
Well, thank you. Good morning. And let me welcome everybody to the U.S. Center and our very important conversation about how MCC catalyzes investment to help our partner countries combat the impacts of climate change. So yesterday, in a similar event, we spoke about the U.S. government's overall leadership on climate and the whole of government approach. Today, we're going to hear firsthand from some of MCC's country partners about their experience. So join me, please, in honoring representatives from our country partners. And it is such a wonderful honor for us to have you joining us here in the U.S. Center. Starting with the President, President Osmani, our dear friend from the Republic of Kosovo. Welcome. The Honorable Dr. Michael Usi, the Minister of Natural Resources and Climate Change from Malawi. Wonderful to see you. The Deputy Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs and Investments from Indonesia, Rahmat Kimuddin. Wonderful to see you. And we understand that Dr. Pushkar, from the Finance Secretary of Nepal, is on his way and will be joining us as soon as his bus gets here. So we'll be hearing from all of you in just a few minutes. Before getting into the conversation, I want to just share a little bit of background about MCC. Our mandate is to reduce poverty through economic growth. And for us MCCers, many of which are sitting here, my wonderful colleagues in our front row, the linkages between poverty, the impact of climate change, and therefore the challenges to growth are very clear and obvious. So our agency is squarely focused on helping our partners build resilience, facilitate a transition to a lower carbon economy, and hopefully a lower carbon future. So how do we do this? In three ways. First, we focus on building high-quality, sustainable infrastructure. Second, we help accelerate private sector investment in all areas around climate. And third, we help communities adapt. Let me talk a little bit about the commitments that we've made. At MCC, we like to set goals and we like to measure things. So several years ago in 2001, we undertook a specific set of commitments around climate. We said that we would see to it that 50% of our activity is climate related, that we would invest in smart and sustainable infrastructure, and that we would focus and use our analytical tools to make sure that we're integrating climate into all of our decision making. And I'm very pleased to say that we are well on track to meet our goals. So in just a moment, we're going to be hearing from our distinguished guests about their experience in working with MCC. Collectively, MCC has deployed about $2 billion of compact funding to the 4 countries that you'll be hearing from. I want to remind everybody that that compact funding is all grants and does not have to be repaid. And about 60% of the $2 billion is related to climate. We've also leveraged with this activity substantial amounts of private sector funding alongside of that money. So first, I'm going to invite President Osmani to come share with you her remarks. She will have to make her exit and get back to Kosovo. And then we will invite everybody else to come to the stage and share some of their initial comments, and then we'll have a moderated discussion. So President Osmani, if you can, please come up and join us. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Such a great pleasure to be here at the U.S. Center. Dear friends, dearest Alice, distinguished guests, ministers, ladies and gentlemen. This moment for us is a celebration of a unique partnership that stands as an embodiment of progress, innovation, and a shared commitment to a greener and a more sustainable future. The MCC Kosovo Compact, a groundbreaking collaboration between the United States Millennium Challenge Corporation and the Republic of Kosovo, represents the largest and most transformative energy investment in Kosovo in decades. At a total investment of $236.6 million, this compact confirms the power of international cooperation in the face of our pressing common challenges. Having an opportunity to talk about our joint work and share the common objectives with everyone present here is especially unique this time. I say this particularly as our participation at COP28 at the leaders level stands as a historic milestone in our climate action journey, underscoring the urgency and significance of the transition to a sustainable future. Just 3 days ago, I was thrilled to present our first voluntary and inclusive NDC together with our minister. With an emission reduction target of up to 49% by 2030 compared to the 2016 levels, it reflects a comprehensive and inclusive approach that guides our efforts in collaboration with global partners. As articulated in this NDC, our green transition is rooted in strategic investments in the energy sector, with significant investment being made in the sectors of transport, agriculture, forestry, other land use, and waste. It is precisely with the support of MCC that we are now addressing the long-standing challenge of over-reliance on coal for energy production, which was almost 100% until recently, striving for an ambitious integration of renewable energy sources comprising of 35% of our energy grid by 2031. Crucially, the utility of this investment extends beyond infrastructure. It intertwines with education and skills building. MCC's support is thus not solely directed at meeting climate objectives, but it's instrumental in building a resilient infrastructure and a workforce that is capable of driving and leading this transformation in a sustainable and enduring manner. In the heart of our historic initiative with MCC lays the Energy Storage Project. As one of the 3 projects under the Compact, it serves as a beacon of hope for Kosovo's energy future. It seeks to address one of the most significant constraints to our economic growth, the unreliable supply of electricity. But it goes beyond that. It aligns Kosovo's national development and energy priorities, aiming not just for energy reliability, but also for poverty reduction, as was rightly pointed out by Alice, and sustainable economic growth. Yet, sustainability is powered by the availability of the mines that are able to ensure it. As such, central to this transformative compact project are 2 additional key activities. One is committed to empower the working age population with in-demand technical training, ensuring to provide the women of our country and other underrepresented groups with opportunities in the energy sector, while the other important component strives to break down barriers and create equal opportunities for all the citizens of Kosovo to participate in the energy sector by providing grants to promote gender diversity and offer training and mentoring opportunities to inspire women to explore and contribute to the energy sector. And on top of it all, the American Catalyst Facility for Development project will help catalyze private sector investments in Kosovo's energy sector by creating an environment conducive to innovation and growth throughout the green economy, by unlocking the potential for additional private sector contributions to Kosovo's energy landscape. Overall, the specialty of the compact is that it uniquely responds to the needs of our people, to the needs of our communities, and of our energy system. But most importantly, it feels as a homegrown initiative, given that the entire process of designing and implementing it puts the country's unique context, needs, and aspiration at center stage. It is rather a rare practice, and I believe it is the underlying recipe that makes MCC's project successful indeed. To the Republic of Kosovo, this is not just another project or just another investment. The way we see this, it truly contains the power to lay the foundations for sustainable and impactful private sector development objectives. On the other hand, by creating an environment conducive to business growth and innovation, MCC's model serves as a catalyst for attracting additional private sector investment. To Kosovo, this is particularly important at this stage of our development, but not only. On the other hand, it is particularly important to note that transparency, accountability, and good governance serve as the underlying principles of this compact. That has been the case since day one. That is an enormous priority for our institutions, and it will remain so as we move forward. This approach indeed further enhances investor confidence, reducing risks and facilitating the mobilization of private capital while setting the stage for sustainable, market-driven solutions that endure beyond the lifespan of individual projects. Respectively, the way we work with the MCC has the greatest potential to create a lasting impact on the country's economic and environmental landscape. It is therefore in our hands, respectively the Kosovo institutions, to ensure that we create a supportive policy environment that fosters public-private partnerships, help mitigate the financial risks, and establishes standardized metrics for sustainability. These elements combined serve as an impetus for catalyzed private sector investment as countries strive to achieve their climate aspirations. So, ladies and gentlemen, in Compact, just like with any similar project or investment, the centrality of gender considerations cannot be overstated. Women play a pivotal role as both agents of change and as those disproportionately affected by climate impacts. Integrating gender perspectives into climate solutions is essential to ensure that the unique needs, experiences, and skills of women are recognized, but most importantly, that they are met. By empowering women in decision-making processes and providing equal access to resources, we not only enhance the effectiveness of climate initiatives, but also contribute to building more resilient and adaptive communities. In essence, embracing a gender-responsive approach to climate solutions is not just an ethical imperative, but it's also a strategic investment in order to build resilient, prosperous, and sustainable societies. It is the smartest investment of our time. To us in Kosovo, the MCC Kosovo Compact, as I said earlier, is not just an investment. It is a commitment to fostering innovation, empowering communities, and accelerating Kosovo's transition to a net zero economy. We are fortunate to witness firsthand how MCC ensures that its interventions are not only responsive to the specific needs of each country, but also integrated impeccably into the broader development strategies. This collaborative approach not only promotes a sense of ownership and accountability among partner countries, but also acts as a magnet for other stakeholders, attracting additional investment and resources from the private sector, non-governmental organizations, and other international partners. The transformative power of the MCC Kosovo Compact lies not only in its financial investment, but in the promise it holds for a future where energy is reliable, opportunities are inclusive, and Kosovo stands as a shining example of sustainable development. So thank you, and may the partnership between the United States and Kosovo continue to move to new heights while we work jointly and ambitiously towards building strong foundations that are not just for the present, but for the generations that will inherit the consequences of our actions. May we make them proud. Thank you very much.
now invite our guests to come on up to the stage, please. Let me invite Dr. Usi to sit here, please. Wonderful. Okay, thank you very much. So we're going to shift gears a little bit and give. Goodness, it's a bit loud over there. Okay. We're going to shift gears and get into a little bit of a moderated discussion. I want to make sure that I've introduced our guests to you. Each one of them will give you a few reflections about their own experiences, both working with MCC, but also some of the climate challenges that they are facing. And then I've got a few questions that I'd love to pose to you. I understand that this clock is going to keep us on time. So if I start squirming a little bit and start sort of looking at the clock, you'll understand why. So the clock is going to keep us on time. First, immediately to my left is Dr. Michael Usi, who is the Minister of Natural Resources and Climate Change from Malawi, who we've been working with closely for some time. Then, of course, we've got you've got a long title, the Deputy Coordinating Minister of Maritime Affairs and Investments from Indonesia, the Honorable Rahmat Kimuddin. Welcome. And then, of course, we have Dr. Krishna Pushkar, the Finance Secretary from Nepal, with whom we're also working closely. So let me welcome you warmly to the U.S. Center, and thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to come spend time with us here in the U.S. Center. So I'm going to start with you, Dr. Usi. Can you, all three of you, please, just give us a few minutes of reflection about how your country is, in general, facing the whole subject of climate change and how you see the work of MCC helping in that regard. Please, Dr. Usi.
Thank you very much. Firstly, let me start by saying a very big thank you to MCC for being a partner in development and also understanding the true meaning of development from the country perspective. MCC has been a very good partner. We are looking at sectors of development. It will not be conclusive to cite specific sectors because there are ripple effects, unintended and intended positive outcomes from this partnership. For example, we are talking about roads which are resilient. When you have a good road, as we have in the construction of our programs, this road will help this Malawian move from his home or her home to school, to the market, to a hospital. And when that happens, the person is happy. And you know, when a person is happy, he will do things that will not only benefit him, but the country as such. So you have laid not just a foundation, but strong foundation that is recognizing the value of understanding the meaning of development from the owner's perspective. So let me stop there at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Let me turn it over to you. Please talk about your experiences in Indonesia.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Albright. So basically, first of all, I would like to say thank you for the support for Indonesian government so far. Indonesia is an old friend, I guess, old partner with MCC and the U.S. government in general. And we believe we just announced and signed a new compact, almost $700 million between MCC. And I think if you want to talk about the challenge for Indonesia, Indonesia is a big country and it's a very complex country. If you want to talk about the challenge of climate, of course, first of all, it's like 17,000 islands, 280 million people, and still developing country, which is really big in power needs. And we need to power those, and we need to build infrastructure. We need to create mobility. And that's why we need to build a lot of transmission lines. We need to build ports, airports. We need to design our transportation and logistics system to be efficient. And I think that's why one of the program of the compact is to improve the logistics and infrastructure. And also with the whole U.S. government and Indonesia, we also have just finished a planning for just energy transition partnership as well, in order to make sure that we can reach our NDC target. We have an NDC target of 2060, and hopefully in the power sector, we want to design it such that it can reach net zero in 2050. Of course, requires big investment, big collaboration, and looking forward to working with MCC.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Coordinating Minister. Dr. Pushkar, wonderful to see you. I was just in Kathmandu not too long ago. We've started very important work on a large energy project. It also has a road component with you. Please, if you could share your country's challenges with regard to climate.
Thank you, Excellency, for inviting us to share some of our experiences. So as you all are aware that Nepal is one of the hard-hit country by the impact of climate change, and your recent visit from the high-level official from the U.S. government has witnessed the impact in all area, including infrastructure, human lives, and also glacier mountings and some more area. So the MCC support that has ensured by the compact in the area of infrastructure development, such as transmission line development and road maintenance project, it has huge impact to make our country more resilient, and also to produce, transmit, and manage our blue energy that we have as a special resources in Nepal, that will impact not only inside the Nepal, but also it will help in trade and development management. Since the energy power we have, we will be able to transfer and trade with India and Bangladesh countries. Market has been already ensured, so that there is great impact in livelihood management. And the project that we have been working with under this compact is very green project, resilient project, and many areas, including the hard-hit, the impact of climate change was like landslide. We had also some issues of glacier outburst and some other issues that very frequently affect our road project as well, movement, transportation. So these all issues will be addressed in somehow by the help of the project that is we are carrying out with the MCC projects. So we are very thankful for the long-standing relationship, and the project that we are carrying out is very climate sensitive, climate resilient product. Thank you, Excellency, for now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Pushkar. I'm going to shift gears a little bit and focus on the private sector. One of the themes that we've been speaking about at COP this time, whether or not in the formal sessions or in the hallways, is how important it is to attract private sector investment, whether or not from corporations or foundations, to the climate journey. And it's one of the things that is very much at the heart of how MCC works. And of course, we've done it in a slightly different way in the work that we have going on with all three of your countries. I'd like to ask each of you to reflect on how your governments are thinking about the role of private investment in helping you on your climate journey and some of the specific targets and objectives that you have. So I'll start with you, Dr. Usi from Malawi.
Thank you very much. The revolution of economy is brought about by the private sector. The public sector creates the environment, and arguably it is the environment that gives out products. So what Malawi is doing currently is to follow its blueprint of development, that is Malawi 2063. When it's being launched, the private sector was party to that, and it is stating exactly what needs to be done. The private sector has room to participate. So issues of climate change are not only a problem or a challenge of government, but also the private sector. We talk about agriculture, for example. we have mega farms. The private sector is also into mega farms. Now, how do they conduct themselves that they develop what is called smart agriculture? Now, to do smart agriculture, they have to be guided by the policy of government, which means the private sector and the public sector have to be talking, have to be discussing, and following the rules of the game. They are partners. One is creating jobs and employing people and developing the country, whilst the public sector is creating the conducive environment for the private sector to flourish. Another example, here at COP 28, we have government officers here. We also have private sector here. We are attending meetings together. We know exactly what we want to achieve and how we can collaborate in order that the desired, preferred futures are clear and we can showcase them creatively and talk about them constantly, so that at the end of the day, the vulnerable societies in the villages benefit. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Deputy Coordinating Minister, how are you thinking about this in Indonesia?
Yeah, thank you. Like, I think in many other countries, I just want to echo Dr. Uzi. Basically, the private sector is the key driver of the economy, and what they need is basically opportunities. They will need infrastructure, they will need good regulations, and they will need incentives. So for Indonesia, especially on the climate related, we want to shift our power sector to more renewables. Like any other countries, typically we centralize our transmission, but we privatize generation from time to and mix state and private sector. So what we need is to make sure that there is enough demand for green power. For example, we improve our purchasing for green power. And once we do that, we announce it to the private sector. And we also need to make sure that there is enough infrastructure to absorb that power. We need to build the transmission, for example, on the transportation sector. We need to build the roads. We need to build the charging station, for example, if you want to electrify your transport. And then we also need to look into our regulations. In our regulations, maybe there are some regulations that need to be improved. Maybe not suitable yet. We need to update our roadmap. Let's say we have a local content requirements. Is the industry today ready? If not, then maybe we shift it a little bit. If yes, then we keep it. And of course, incentive. On shifting is difficult for private sector. And maybe the market is not yet ready, and therefore the government need to step up and show the way. For example, on electrification of transport, the government first say that we will start by doing the purchases of electric vehicle. And we create a regulation to make sure that EV is, if the government want to buy, we want to prioritize electric vehicle. And also we give, like in the US, we give government support and incentive to make sure that the green premium for EV is becoming smaller. So we give tax breaks, we give cash government support, such that the early adopters will be able to purchase, and therefore the private sector is seeing that as a market and they start investing as well. So this is a few things that we do in Indonesia.
Thank you very much. Dr. Pushkar.
Thank you. Actually, Nepal is one of the most friendly country to invite and engage private sector in many areas. That includes the area of infrastructure development, human development, socio-economic development, and gender management, and some other area as well. Especially in terms of to cope with the adverse impact of the climate change, we have also introduced the blended finance models with the help of several bilateral government and also intergovernmental agencies. So if we talk the example about the electrification that we produce, hydropower that is made by private sector and public sector engagements, and the MCC project that is being engaged in transmission line that will also address the energy production by the private sector and public sector, and that will enter in domestic market, and also it will cover the international market neighborhood as well. So the target of zero emission, not only in the Nepal but also in the region, Nepal will be able to meet with the help of private sector. So MCC project has also opened some windows to engage private sector, and Nepal has liberalized some of the domestic acts, regulation and policy that encourage private sector by providing incentives, financial and non-financial incentive to attract private sector in order to cope with the challenges and issues raised and emerged by the climate change in the area of overall life, livelihood, and nature management as well. Thank you, Excellency.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So much of what we've been talking about are what I would call sort of big picture policy questions, finance questions, investing in different types of infrastructure. But there's a whole other dimension to the climate challenge, which is how does it impact people? And a lot of people here at COP are talking about what we call a just energy transition, which is thinking about how do climate impacts, climate transition, the transition to renewables, how does that impact communities? So let's again shift gears, and I'd love to ask all three of you to comment on how your government is thinking about the just part of a just energy transition and how you're taking into consideration in your own planning how the whole subject of climate change is impacting different communities. Please, Honorable Minister Dr. Ussi.
Thank you very much. You know, we are, as people, we are what we are because of what we know. So knowledge is very, very critical. What the Malawi government is doing, first of all, is to make sure that people in the villages understand issues to do with the climate and why they should participate. We have groups in the villages that are participating in issues of climate. For example, in Malawi, most people use charcoal for energy. Now, for people to stop using charcoal, they need to be given an alternative source of energy. But just like MCC has done, has not just dumped the theories of development to Malawi, but Malawi has been engaged. The same thing, Malawi is engaging the people in the remotest areas to ensure that they understand the transition. Why we have to transition? Because cutting down of trees is exacerbating the problem of climate change. We're also looking at, I'll touch maybe on climate finance. Climate finance is, in our view as government of Malawi, meant to confront the challenges that the people are facing in the villages, in the towns, due to the impact of climate change. Therefore, it has to be justified, it has to be justice, so that the people themselves have to appreciate, have to understand that what we have is not charity, it is justice. Because climate finance is not a matter of charity, it is justice. I don't think that we should dwell much on blame game to say, well, the Western countries are emitting gases. That we have said enough. What is needed at this point in time is implementation, so that people get the money, accessibility. Here we have come, there are so many pledges that have been made. Malawi is listening. When I get home, they will be asking questions, where is the money? Now, where is the money? So we need to ensure that accessing the money should be possible so that we respond to the issues of climate change because its impact. Let me put it in this way. When we send a proposal to a development partner, Malawi is sending people that are destitute, people that have been impacted by climate change, children that are orphaned, women that are widowed. These are the people that we see in the proposal that we send to the development partner. But from the perspective, it would appear the development partner will be looking at the academic layout of the document, background, the content analysis of the problem. So that we are looking at things differently. We have a problem, we have the chemistry of the problem. You have expectation of how that problem should be presented. So I would call upon development partners to go deep into the bone marrow of the problem and respond than being bogged down into issues of academic way of laying out the document. So this is not about charity, it's about justice. Thank you.
So you're saying think about the people.
Yes.
Think about the people. Mr. Deputy Coordinating Minister, how are you thinking about the people part of the equation in Indonesia?
Yes, if you talk about just energy transition, of course changes, it requires changes, and changes is difficult. And I think more and more people now know what to do, but we need to support them with how to do it. I think that is the just part, is that we have to show them the way, not just telling them, oh, you have to do this, but this is how, and we have to provide support for that. And I think one way to do that is to provide opportunities. I think for us in Indonesia, because, for example, fossil fuel or fossil energy is such a big part of our economy, and we know at some point we need to make this obsolete, if you will. The world will probably make this obsolete. We have to think about what else. What other sectors that we need to develop and create, such that, you know, the future Indonesians can have good jobs, not only doing coal mining, for example. Or maybe like, you know, creating combustion engine vehicle. Maybe what are the sectors? So I think for us, on the maybe micro, smaller scale, we need to think about upskilling, reskilling, safeguarding. It's all very important. But also in the national scale, we do need to do a macro planning and says, these are the sectors that Indonesia want to do, the few sectors that will replace the fossil industry later on. And this is where we need to incentivize and develop the labor skill sets and whatnot. And I think that is why we want to share with the people here as well. Let's do it together.
Thank you. Dr. Pushkar.
Thank you. Actually, climate justice, just transition is one of the very complex terminology that we use for, and it is very difficult to express in word. We can just think and feel when we close our eyes that what kinds of justice really need for the people who are most affected. So if you talk the case about Nepal, some of the major communities, major people who are residing in the area of close by the Himalayas, mountains, and also by the river, they are suffering and feeling existential threat by the impact of the climate change. So it is really very hard to address their issues. However, we don't have any other option besides to say that, okay, these are the global impact, and Nepal is suffering despite almost near to zero contribution to the emissions and global pollutions and something like that. So Nepal is disproportionately facing these challenges, I think. So when we talk about the climate justice and just for our society, we are giving many incentives and engagement with the help of development partner. For instance, we are blending the global practices as well as the local practices, that how we can cope with the impact of the climate impact of the climate change. So we are working on their livelihoods, because the pattern of agriculture, the pattern of their income, pattern of their biological parameters are drastically being changed due to the impact of climate change. So we are engaging them into our policy formulation. We are engaging, partnering with them in infrastructure development. We are partnering with them in some other areas and scope where they can have expertise, or where we can empower them to cope or to adapt the climate change. So adaptation is one of the major priority of our government of Nepal, and the community who are suffering with the major threat of the climate change are the major part. They are being engaged in planning, designing process, project process, implementation process, and we are putting their say at the forefront of our major instruments that we are adopting in Nepal for the climate change.
Well, thank you all very much. I first of all want to thank you all for being such wonderful partners of MCC. It is a great honor for everybody at our agency to work with your countries and many of your colleagues throughout your countries. We said at the beginning that if we're going to make progress in this fight, and it is a fight about which we must make progress, it's going to be a combination of ingenuity, different kinds of money, thinking about policy frameworks, incentives, changing how we think about building infrastructure, taking the considerations of communities well at the heart so that people are not left behind. So obviously an incredibly complex set of challenges. And I think all three of your countries and the work that you've shared with us are really at the lead of helping us fight the fight globally so that we wind up in a world where we are contending with the impacts of climate. So we can't thank you enough for working with us, and thank you so much for joining us here at the U.S. Center for what I think has been a fantastic discussion. Thank you all so much for joining us.